It was just a year prior to this. At the last minute, I needed to buy a few gifts for Christmas. I went to the mall to see if there was anything else I could acquire, because I felt like some of the gifts I had bought for everyone were a little cheap. It was the day before Christmas Eve, so the mall was packed. There were a lot of automobiles in the parking lot, and I could already tell the mall was packed inside. The mall was rather large and contained a number of well-known stores and restaurants. I started out by going to a few of the usual shops that I normally went to while I was there. In the first several stores, I was able to find a few nice gifts. Still, I continued to browse, and at my third destination of the day, the clothing store, I noticed one woman. I never really thought about her, but the following time I went shopping, I noticed her, and that's when I realized she was there. A few stores later, I ran into her again. She was staring at me from a slight distance behind me. That is, until I noticed the woman, who I still believe to be a coincidence, traveling some distance behind me on one of the mall pathways between stores. She was really short and wearing a black jacket and sunglasses. I felt that she was probably following me for some purpose. I decided to just stop wherever and hang out, acting as though I was going to a coffee shop. I could see from this that the wife had likewise given up. To be honest, though, I had no idea what to do. I couldn't understand why she would be pursuing me. I decided to disregard her and continue shopping. I went to about 3 more stores. Occasionally, I would cast a quick peek about or over my shoulder, and most of the time, I would see the woman. I wasn't sure if she understood that I knew she was after me. I was finally done shopping at the mall after about 2 hours. I walked in the direction of the exit near my parked car. When I got to the doors, I saw that the woman in back of me was preparing to leave also. For a brief time, I was afraid she may follow me home in her car or something. As soon as I exited the mall, I almost sprinted into the parking lot and hid behind the first vehicle I saw. That may sound strange to you, and when I ride this, it does sound nuts, but that's what came to mind when I thought of it. I drove away from the woman, hiding behind other cars in the parking lot so that I hardly saw her go. As I ducked between rows of cars, the woman stepped closer and seemed to be surveying her surroundings. If she knew I was hiding, she must have seen me bolt behind a car or sensed that I wouldn't disappear from view so fast. I carefully and cautiously made my way over to my parked automobile. Although I was unable to see the woman, I knew she was around. At last, I could see my car. After approaching it with even more caution, I slipped in through the rear door and hunkered down in the back seat to hide from sight. I looked intently out the window and saw the woman a little distance away. I watched her for approximately 3 or 4 minutes when I saw the woman get into a car. They left after that. The reason she had followed me for so long eluded me. Let me introduce myself as a woman who lives alone in a house in order to set the stage for my story. I spend most holidays with my folks, who live about 5 minutes away from me. A few years ago, I was spending Christmas as usual with my parents. Meanwhile, I started decorating my entire house for Christmas almost right away following Thanksgiving. I received a tree, nutcrackers, and a ton of other stuff, and I had a terrific time getting into the Christmas spirit. I used to play Christmas music in my house almost every day. The weekend before Christmas, I hosted a Christmas party at my place for my circle of friends. We did some minor gift exchanging and other things. Let's fast forward to Christmas Eve a few days from now. I woke up at 8 in the morning. I had to rise later than usual because I'm on vacation from work. I felt so rejuvenated that I got out of bed and made some coffee. While doing this, I noticed a single present under my Christmas tree. It was a somewhat huge green package that didn't seem to have been packed very well. The gift also had a ribbon on it. It eluded me to solve. I was certain that it was unfamiliar to me. I briefly considered whether it might have been anything from my Christmas party, but I knew I would have seen it. Right beneath the tree, the gift was easy to see. I walked up to it and looked it over. It bore my name and an emoji of happiness drawn beside it. I wondered how in the world it got there, but I decided to open it. When I got it, it was a cardboard box. When I opened it, I discovered a winter cap, some random flowers, and a handwritten note. However, I did already own the cap. After reading the note, I became really confused. "Merry Christmas," it read. "I ordered flowers specifically for you, even though you didn't ask me to your celebration last week. It seemed like fun. By the way, here's your hat back. It was yours to leave outside." After reading this, I was a little confused and apprehensive. Was this some kind of prank or what? I took a picture of it and posted it to my friends' group chat. I assumed that since they all instantly denied it, it didn't seem like any of them would take it on. The question of how this got into my house is more important, though. I walked back into the kitchen. I thought I heard something coming from inside my house as soon as I did. I was still as I stood there. I couldn't tell if it was all in my head or if I had actually heard something. And then I heard it again. I could see exactly where the noise was coming from. It originated from the downstairs hallway closet. I walked quickly and stealthily to the front door, grabbed my keys, and headed outside. After that, I got into my car and left. When I arrived at my parents' place via automobile, I told them everything. The police arrived at my residence once we called them. Not long later, I heard that a man had been found hidden within. That he had been captured was a huge consolation. It turns out that I had no idea that a guy was following me on social media. It appears that he came in through the window that is behind my tree. I was therefore ignorant of its flaws. He broke into my house, dropped his gift, and went to hide in my hallway closet. I have no idea what the guy was attempting to acquire, so I'm really pleased I left when I did. Years ago, this occurred while I was a high school student. At the time, we were having Christmas at our house. My grandparents were staying at our house with a few aunts, uncles, and cousins. Family members who had been in town for a few days slept at our completely furnished home because we had 2 spare rooms. The majority of the gifts were wrapped on Christmas Eve, although some were wrapped and placed under the tree. Having begun my first job earlier in the year, I was overjoyed with the gifts I had received for everyone. I had already tucked a few under the tree, but a couple were hidden in my room to avoid being discovered. We opened presents, spent the evening together, and slept a little later than normal on Christmas Eve. I went up to my room and played video games for a while because I wasn't completely asleep. Just before I went to bed, I realized that I had forgotten to put my last few gifts under the tree. I already had them wrapped, even though I had hidden them in my bedroom closet. I went to fetch them, came outside my bedroom, and placed them beneath the Christmas tree. When I stepped out of my bedroom, the house was peaceful and black save for a small nightlight that we maintained on the wall above our bedroom. I went down the stairs and into the living room. It was slightly brighter there because to the Christmas tree's lights. My gifts joined the dozen or so that were under the tree already. Something began to sound as I turned to head back up the steps. It was so silent that I was taken aback by the noises. It was coming from the back of the house. I walked over to see what was going on. I thought I heard something rattling from the back door of the patio as I was working on this. The back entrance of the house seemed to be where someone would enter. I went to the kitchen and turned on the light there through the rear door. As I did, I watched the door open. I heard what sounded like someone running outside as I jumped back. After I had collected myself, I realized that nobody was there, and whoever had been there was gone. I stepped over to look out. I shut and locked the door after making sure nobody was there. The door must have been left unlocked for some reason. We seldom ever used our back door, so that had to be the case. One of my cousins or someone else who didn't remember to lock it up at night might have utilized it. Either way, I was appalled by what I had just witnessed. I made sure all the other doors in the house were locked. After making sure that the intruder had left the premises, I switched off all the lights and went back upstairs to prepare for bed. After returning to my bedroom, I shut the drapes. Before going to bed, I just so happened to pull back the curtain and glance out my window. My window overlooked the side yard of our house. I saw a man walk in the front door of our house and into our backyard. My heart started beating faster. This has to be the person who tried to break in. I fled my room and came back downstairs. I switched on every light I could find while doing this. I thought this would scare the man away, and it seemed to work, so I did the same when I got back to the kitchen. I heard what sounded like footsteps approaching through the snow again, coming from the back entrance area. Peering out the front window, I could hardly see the guy walking away down the street. I went back to bed after that and turned out the lights. This time, when I looked out my window, I didn't see the man. When I did fall asleep at last, I assumed he was gone forever. When Christmas morning finally arrived, I woke up to the sound of family members speaking downstairs. When I came downstairs, my mother questioned if I had left the lights on. Yes, I answered, and I explained things to her. Upon venturing outdoors, a few of us noticed that the lock on our rear door had been compromised. It wasn't locked from the outside, even though it looked locked from the inside, because it wasn't working at all. That was how the man had unlocked the door. I'm concerned that when I walked back downstairs that night, I would not have been able to stop the guy if he had come into the room of his own free will. I'm glad I turned on the lights because it made a difference. I wonder what would have happened otherwise.